Aloha. I had to make a quick video to reference another example of the uh, the algorithms of how we uh, experience our reality, and the individuals who are working to promote an idea, sort of a tunnel vision of how we experience our reality, by saying that they are the almighty knowers of the universe, the almighty creators of basically illusion and ideas that are not. They're just theories. And they back it up with the ego, the power of the illusory power of, this is it. It's just science. You can't question. Like he says, the universe is not obligated to. I can't remember, like in this video right here. I'll play that in a second. But basically, you can see how the science community's answer to everything is science is true, whether you like it or not, or whether you can understand it or not. So basically that's saying that the limitations of science, the evolution theory, the Big Bang theory, NASA, SpaceX, the public education system, the university system, all that shit is true, whether you like it or not, because the entire system is based upon that. And basically that ego exists in order to get people to just shut up about bringing anything out, bringing any kind of other perspectives out that are talking about how we can experience our reality, because that is at the foundation of the control grid as a whole. This whole program of colonization of not just the earth plane, not just the peoples, the psyche of the people, not just culture as a whole, but how we experience our universe, our connection to spirit, our connection and understanding and understanding to a soul, our spaces beyond what is within this so-called known universe. So they are basically like low-budget time travelers. If we experience time with our consciousness and how we are allowing ourselves to understand our reality, and they are telling us how to understand our reality, then they are basically slowing down time and creating a space where we are not allowed to think any further than the walls, than the barriers, the limitations that have been provided for us by these artificial rulers that are just using science as a way to keep us in this non-questionable dormant space of just paid slavery and silent psychological abuse. And they team up. So you got Hollywood with Matt Damon and The Martian. You got Bill Maher interviewing all these politicians, Bernie Sanders, all these actors and people who go on the show and talk about politics. And then you have mixing in people like Degrasse Tyson who go on this show. And I'm just using this as an example because I wanted to give a prime example of the mentality, the atmosphere, the ego, the flavor of this whole white supremacy agenda. And I'm going to keep referencing it because people still have difficulties understanding this, that this exists, that this is a space that exists. And until we start to realize how far this goes in relation to all the things that are involved with how we understand the earth plane, the transhumanistic movement, the Mandela effect, CERN is directly related to NASA scientists, the professors, the university systems. All those scientists that are in there come from this bogus ass university system that Neil deGrasse Tyson is working for, and putting up all this information. Same people at MIT like Noam Chomsky talking about global warming and climate change and all that shit in order to back up the biggest lies of the globe model and the fact that they've been lying to hide all of these programs for centuries. All of them are in cahoots with each other, and down to the very natures of the personalities that are on television. To this day, this was a few days ago that Bill Maher is on, or Neil deGrasse Tyson is on Bill Maher's show talking about politics. The whole show leading up to that was all talking about bullshit as Democrat and Republican shit, as if it fucking matters anyway, like as if they're different. This is what these shows that mean to do, to make an intellectual perspective out of something that's just dead. They just bring life to something that's just purely dead. If you go into the nuts and bolts of its entire energy source, it's just ridiculous. And I'll play this video right now so you can see that this is how they sell this to you as they own themselves as like they put themselves out there as like the almighty, the all-knowing, the almighty. And civilization as we know it today, the colonial world as we know it today that has been going on for centuries, the mindset of the university system and the whole genocidal mentality as a whole is still alive and well. And they don't give one fuck about what you think about how you connect to your human reality, how you connect to nature, how you connect to... They don't care about you at all. At all. They only care about themselves, their idea of civilization, their artificial, their synthetic, transhumanistic new age futures, and all the things that are going to be placed in front of you for you to either buy or be persecuted by. Either way, you will be part of the system. You're either with us or you're against us. That's that whole mentality. It's cowboys and Indians every day. And these cowboys like Bill Maher have these television shows to push cowboy agendas, while everybody else that goes against their cowboy agenda is automatically an Indian that needs to be taken out. So if you're talking about anything other than climate change, which is their main thing, if you're talking about something that exists outside of climate change, you're an enemy. If you're talking about something that exists outside of politics and Democrats and Republicans, you're an enemy. If you're talking about something that exists outside of the hard science community, the university system, then you're an Indian and you will be taken out. And the whole design of these television shows, like I said before in the other videos, they're not separated. Just as there's an algorithm for each show, how it's designed, they go from topic to topic to topic, and it's all one story to program you to think a certain way. There's a reason why they are talking about the politics and all that other bullshit, and then go into this Amazon peoples who were discovered recently that had never interacted with so-called civilization, and then go into Neil deGrasse Tyson, because they want to create this mentality of these are those people, yes, they still exist, and they have no power. They're just primitive savages, no different than Christopher Columbus. They're just primitive savages that will eventually just be taken over, and then that's it. And you just have to deal with it. Your connection with nature, your connection with your reality with each other, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So they're ruling you instead of coming into your into your village and just destroying you or bringing smallpox in there. They do it with the mentality of having you vote for this shit or having you agree with them to make these moves by straight up ego and bully mentalities, like he's about to show you in his words and his actions in this video right here. And then subliminally or subconsciously you just go ahead and vote or act this stuff out, and then not even taking into account any empathetic or compassionate space with the individuals who are living there. In fact, it's a fucking joke to them. Their way of life is a joke to them. And this is how it has been, and this is how it is today, and it's going to continue to be that way. And everybody else who is not part of the hard science community, the university system community, they're seen as primitive savages, thugs, the mob, all this other shit that is not civilized. This ain't no different than white wigs that people wear and the black robes of the old times in England and all that shit. This is an entire it's a systematic takeover, and it's constant. This was just the other day. This is how they get people to think, and they get these crowds, these certain people, just like Donald Trump has a following. As much as the bullshit as he talks about, there's people that follow him. So they get their following, and then they just promote it on the news as if it matters, and then they amplify it and to create an atmosphere. And then the answers to that atmosphere are given to you by the puppeteers who have set up these programs for that to exist that way in the first place. And it goes from the most extreme so-called intellectuals like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michio Kaku, Bill Nye, to back up these theories, these artificial versions of experiencing your reality, all the way up until the comedic talk show individuals who back it up by playing certain roles like, oh, well, I don't like, you know more than me, you're more experienced in this, I just talk about comedy, I'm this and that. What they're really just building each other's egos up. They're adding credibility to each other by the way they experience their body language, by the way Bill Maher backs down when he talks to Neil deGrasse Tyson. By the way, Neil deGrasse Tyson bulks himself up as if he's some sort of fucking demigod who knows the all-knowing. And his words are that science exists and you don't need to believe it. It just exists, and everything else is just a bunch of hocus pocus bullshit but it doesn't have any effect on science. That's it. That's the end of story. Stop asking questions. Climate change exists. Evolution theory exists. Although we don't call it a theory, it just is. And the Big Bang Theory exists, although we don't call it a theory. It just is. Obviously, we made a television show about it. So this is how they make themselves real to you. And then they just keep pounding that mentality into your head, saying it over and over and over again with their giant egos and these giant television shows who make you believe that this is it. And constantly at the heart of the issue is this story that I'm getting ready to play right now, which is the individuals who exist outside of this colonial grid that has materialized to this white supremacy program that is backed up by the hard science illusion, are constantly being slaughtered, destroyed, genocided. Their history is being thrown out of the collective consciousness, and then we're moving along this timeline that has been artificially created by these so-called controllers. And it's a takeover. It's a psychological takeover that is manifested into a physical takeover. And it's going on this day, on to this day is no different. This smug asshole mentality, just this smug ass arrogant fucking asshole mentality that you're getting ready to hear and see, and just realize that this is what's happened on a collective scale. And the design of this show, that this Amazon Prime Earthing, this story about the Amazon people is right before Neil deGrasse comes on. So he goes and jokes about this. First it was politics, then he jokes about this, then he moves straight into Neil deGrasse Tyson. That is a very definite algorithm to make you think a certain way. It's a program. It's programming you to think a certain way about these storylines and about yourself and about civilization, so-called civilization as a whole, and about these individuals. Like, these are these people and those are those people, and he's the one who tells you what it's all about. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson comes in and hammers in the so-called hard science with just his ego. That's it. And you can see when you really listen to what they're talking about, they really have no answers for anything. They don't understand shit. All of it is theory. This dude, if he had a regular conversation with anybody outside of the group that is on television, who just sits around and kisses his ass, he would be stuttering like Obama was the other day. If all that shit. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he would get in that same stuttering mentality, because this dude's an actor. All these dudes are actors. When they're talking about this bullshit, they are straight up fucking actors. They can't speak straight to anybody at all. They have to be set up in a closed environment. A television show is a closed environment. You have to bow down to Bill Maher when you're on this show. You have to bow down to Neil deGrasse Tyson when you're on Star Talk Radio. You got to bow down to Joe Rogan when you're on his show. You got to bow down to whoever the TED Talks motherfucker is on TED Talks. You got to bow down. You got to fit in these little boxes, shut your fucking mouth, and tell the story they want you to tell. And the way they tell that story is how they want to tell it in reference to the bigger stories that sell the bigger agenda behind the scenes. And see, when you listen to this and watch just this fucking asshole ass attitude speaking, these are people, these are real people that live in the Amazon rainforest that are just being taken over by these oil companies, these people who are cutting down the trees, and people who are trying to farm like palm oil, all that shit, the chip company, all that shit is, they are encroaching on their land. These people are there, and then they're just going to say, oh yeah, well, this is just happening. You're just going to have to suck it up and eventually just be this way. That's just how it is. So, here we come.
Contact with civilization were in the news this week. What? Okay, it's true. Look at the picture. Isolated Amazon tribe and makes contact with outsiders, and this is now a big debate among anthropologists and ethnographers. How should we approach this? Should we try to keep them in their pristine innocence, away from the civilized world, or to accept the inevitable? They're going to be met by civilization at some point. Should we do that? And
he tells you what to think.
The second point, that's where we put out the Amazon primer. So you're joining the modern world. Would you like to hear some of the tips we have for the Okay. For example,
make it real. It's so now.
Your spear will come in handy as a
joke.
Selfie stick. There you go, right? We don't eat grubs, ants, or fungus, but if you really miss it, try Chipotle. Women must cover their bare breasts in public, but we make an exception for Rihanna. It's a good exception. Reread. Under Obamacare, if you like your medicine man, you can keep your medicine. I know your real name is...
This is 2016.
Break and say Ken. Some tips. If you plan to sneak into America, hurry. Oh, here's an important tip. If you want to feel good here in America, you only need to know 3 words of English. I have glaucoma. Jiffy Lube doesn't really change your oil. They just take your money and hide in that little hole. This is something you're going to need to... Throwback Thursday doesn't mean you get to be a cannibal again. You see that? Right, because you all have so many good friends among the indigenous people of the Amazon. God, I hate liberals.
Inhumane.
Donald Trump.
See, they just
Donald
ball
Trump is
everything
not
up
wearing
into
war
liberal.
paint. He's always that color. And if some guy named Sting calls, just tell him you're busy.
They just say everything is liberal. So he says, all right, we're going to introduce Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson comes in talking about evolution theory, the Big Bang theory, and basically just Bill Maher sets him up by asking him, like, what's the biggest threat to the planet today, and is it an asteroid or coming to destroy us, or a super volcano? And then that just sets up Neil deGrasse Tyson to say, well, we actually have the intellect to stop an asteroid from destroying the planet because we can go up there and make it like move another way and it won't hit us with our technology and our intellect. And then Bill Maher jokes by saying, oh, like Armageddon, like Bruce Willis. And then Neil deGrasse says, ha 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 ha. No, this is not that. We actually have an intelligent way of doing this. And the other guy says, well, is it funded? And then Neil deGrasse Tyson says, no, it's not funded at all. So basically they're just talking a bunch of shit. Not to mention the fact that this whole thing is fucking made up. And it's all they just patter everybody. It's just a big show. It's a big play. And everybody has a role. He has this panel of assholes that go up there and just sit there and talk shit and back up Bill Maher's intent. And if they don't back up his intent, he will shut them down. And then he invites these other important guests who sit on the other side of him. And then if they don't back up what he says, then he'll just shut them down too. Or he'll just agree with him in his own way. Basically, what actually goes on the whole time is that they sell their agenda one show at a time, and they use everybody that is all over this whole mainstream pop culture colonial white supremacy grid to back up their theories, their hard science, and their bogus ass mentalities of how we should live as human beings and how we should everything, and they're constantly just destroying indigenous cultures, connection with land, and it's a big fucking joke to them. It's a big ass joke. And these assholes like Neil deGrasse Tyson that are... Yeah, so he introduces him now. And then these shows, he's going to say National Geographic, Star Talk Radio and all this shit. Or the Cosmos, and they tell you what your universe is all about. So the universe is not obligated to make sense to humans. That's basically saying scientists, the universe based upon the scientific perspective, though, so the professors of the university system and science as we know it today, which is basically just atheism, is not obligated to make sense to humans. So shut the fuck up, anybody else who has anything else to say. We are the all-knowing, all-powerful, almighty scientists of your universe, and you just got to deal with whatever the fuck we say. So I'm on television. I'm on a television show, obviously, so it has to be real. This is what the undertone, the subliminal messaging of this atmosphere that Neil deGrasse Tyson puts out with his stupid ass vest and his punk ass ties, and they even go on to talking about Saturn. They spend a whole bunch of time in the beginning of this talking about how he should really love Saturn. Bill Maher should look at Saturn and be all like into Saturn, and this whole thing is just. So Bill Maher is talking about like the sexualization of women, and then Bill Maher talks about the sexualization of women in his little explanation of what's the most beautiful thing in the universe, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson goes into like the heavenly bodies of the planets, especially Saturn with the rings around the planet and all that shit. He just goes on, and they have this patter back and forth. It's a play. It's a big ass play, obviously. I don't know what's on this one.
And as the director of the Hayden Planetarium, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Hades Planetarium. Hades.
Tyson, how are you, my friend? All right. Look at you.
So these are their panel of assholes.
You always have one of your sciencey ties.
I never know when I need to reference it in conversation.
Right, exactly. Actually, that's good for me.
Actors.
Now, that's Saturn, right?
So 4 of our giant planets have rings, but this is likely Saturn.
Now,
They just
if you've ever seen Saturn,
talk about Saturn. Look at this.
we don't all look for the telescope, but then
See, still talking about Saturn. Saturn still.
Of the universe on the soul.
would not compare to the beauty of a woman.
See, there it goes. Still talking about
Go
that
at it
shit.
again, just to see if you can keep your story straight.
Okay, go on.
Because, I'm a believer in science, but I just got.
You don't have to believe in science.
No,
Look at
I
this
know,
shit.
I know. You're right.
Look at that arrogant.
I know. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. All right, don't.
Just you sat
All right.
here.
All right. So let's go through the Big Bang again. Now the universe is 14 billion years old.
Yeah, about 14 billion years.
And let's just now I know
Actors.
everything was just little
Small.
How big? Like that big?
Small pinhead size, yeah.
Pinhead size. Okay. So let's just say the Earth was in there. We know it was more. I'm going to get to that.
That which would become the Earth was in there, yes.
Right. Now, it's true that, like atoms, the same amount of atoms were always in the universe, right?
Yeah,
They just changed
basically.
for.
Well, atoms, they can become energy and back and forth.
But, I mean, like, if you put the Earth in that little thing that was just the Earth, you're saying that it condensed, because we can picture that, condensing
At very high temperatures,
so
matter
much
and energy.
So Bill Maher plays dumb. He doesn't often play dumb with everybody. He plays smart, extra smart. In fact, arrogantly smart with everybody else. But you have to see, just like Stephen Colbert does on the Late Show with Brian Greene, they play this dumb role because this is the actual intent of these television shows. They don't give a fuck about entertaining you. They give every shit about conditioning you to think and believe in certain things and act certain ways and treat, just like the public education system is designed to condition you to be to act in a certain way, like the student relationship to the teacher. Like, you got to be conditioned to be like a low vibrating, like a prisoner. You have to act, I can't think of the word right now, but it's just a disciplinary program, and you're taught not to question the teacher. You're taught not to you're not to respond negatively towards authority. You just act and do what we tell you to do. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Greene, Bill Nye, Michio Kaku, anytime they buck up their feathers and they start talking shit, it doesn't matter if you own your own television show, you gotta act like an asshole, like a little kid, when these people come on your show and start talking shit, because they are the bigwigs who tell you what your universe is all about. This is the intent behind these shows. So Bill Maher just sets him up with his stories and everything, and then that's all That's all, folks. The whole cartoon gets sold on down the line, one day at a time. This is a military takeover, a psychological operation on a collective scale, and these actors are out there to sell you this Hollywood version of experiencing your reality. And they'll get on there and do this fake little argument, fake little patter back and forth, talking about this and that. Meanwhile, you're being programmed with his stupid ass tie and his dumb ass vest on a regular basis, and his arrogance, his ego just sells you the realness of it all, because he has this sort of stature with a PhD in astrophysics, physics, which is just fucking bullshit when you think about it in relation to speaking on stuff like the flat earth, the Mandela effect, and all this other stuff. He's just a big fucking bully in an illusionary movie. Let's see what else he
All of
said.
the Earth would fit into that little thing.
Yeah.
And
but it
they
would not be
lean
stable. It would
on
explode
these
and give us the Big Bang.
But wait.
That's why we have
so
the Big
now
Bang.
let's picture
Certain
the
stories,
Earth, the whole
evolution
Earth
theory,
in that one
Big
little
Bang
thing.
theory.
But it's not just
They gotta
that.
lean
And
on
the
this
Earth was
stuff.
uninhabited. Christie was not on the Earth at the time.
Correct.
They gotta lean on this stuff and just tell you it exists and you can't question it. And then that's what makes it so real. That's just how it is. It's just like, this shit exists. You can't say anything because we're the innovators of your civilization. We did it. So the rest of the show, he just goes into talking about, they get into politics. They get into, this is how they mix it in with like the fear program of, they start talking about the Zika virus. And the Zika virus moving from South America on up to Florida and everything, and mutation. This is how they sell the evolution program again, evolution theory program again, and they use him as Neil deGrasse Tyson as like a reference in relation to that fear program story. He obviously plays, oh, well, I'm not like a biologist or anything. I talk about this and that. And then he says, oh, well, you're a scientist and all this, so you should know about this stuff. So he weighs in on it from an evolutionary perspective. And that's how they play the fear program stories of the politics as a whole. So they mix in all these individuals to tell you these subconscious stories that are unquestionable. Like, you don't talk about the origins of the Zika virus, like how these genetically modified motherfuckers came in and created this shit and all these vaccines and all this other bullshit, that like who was behind these mutations to begin with, who's behind all this stuff. They talk about shallow layers in order to sell fear. If you go into the depths of this stuff, you'll start talking about where this stuff originates. They don't want to go there. That's why this show exists, in order to keep you on a psychological vibration that doesn't go any deeper than that, and their egos keep you from going there. Bill Maher does it heavily. He'll just shut you down. If you try to go any deeper, you're speaking hokum, or you're speaking some kind of like jibber jabber. If you start talking about anything outside of climate change, Democrats and Republicans and hard science and all this shit, same thing goes with Neil deGrasse Tyson. You're speaking magic. We don't deal in magic and metaphysical perspectives on your reality. We only deal with hard science. So these individuals represent a world that, a psychological world that's manifested into a physical world that has no connection with their creator, no connection with their creative intelligence, no connection with empathy or compassion for you, nature, the harmonics of this earth plane as a whole, and any other stories that exist from a spirit, soul, mind, body perspective. They only live on the body perspective, and they worship the artificial mind, the illusory mind perspectives, and then totally cut out the spirit, which totally cuts out, or totally cut out the soul, which totally cuts out the spirit connections. These individuals exist on a total physical reality, and they're selling the lower chakra reality to you as if that's it. And then they harness the rest of your energy, your creative energy, by you buying into the storyline. That's basically it. So this is the algorithm of the Neil deGrasse Tyson. This motherfucker, this piece of shit that wears these ties and these vests and goes on these shows and just he's an actor. He is Matt Damon. And Matt Damon's ass ain't no different than those bankers that he was talking about stealing money at MIT. These motherfucker bankers he's talking about, well, yeah, you went to MIT. We know that you stole this money. We know you stole this money, bankers. And we know you stole this money, bankers. Well, yeah, well, fuck you, Matt Damon, because we know you know what the fuck is going on behind the scenes with how you're programming everybody with your punk ass movies and all this bullshit that's going on with Hollywood as a whole and the whole NASA agenda that you're selling to individuals. So this whole story is not disconnected. They are all one story. These individuals are all working together, and they sell you their personalities and their screen, their scripts that they read, that are programmed. They're just programs or conditions to make you think and act a certain way. So that's basically it. This was the Neil deGrasse Tyson algorithm, and yeah. I just wanted to share that because this just came up, and this was only a few days ago, and that Amazon group of individuals that they came across, and then he just does this arrogant thing on here that they don't see. It just pissed me off. They don't see what they know what this is doing. Obviously they do know, but a lot of people who watch these shows and just still trust in Neil deGrasse Tyson, still trust in Bill Nye and the university system as a whole. They don't know like how connected. A lot of them don't know how interwoven these individuals are with the straight up genocide program. They don't understand it. And it pisses me off to see this stuff so blatant in the consciousness as a whole, so blatant in the mainstream as a whole, and have people still talking about, yeah, Bernie Sanders, like Bernie Sanders. Oh, and also before this, they were talking about that was the precursor to before the Amazon thing, was just talking about how fucked up stupid liberals are and how stupid Republicans are, obviously with Trump, and then how Bernie Sanders is great. He's the only one that's got the balls to come on the show. Everybody else is full of shit and all this stuff. Like, they're setting you up. They're setting you up for a socialist program. And then also Neil deGrasse slipped something in there real quick in the overtime that I saw on another video. They were talking about, we need to get, money and resources. We need to get everybody on a middle class stasis, at least, to provide them with their resources. And that should be the norm. So they're selling this Bernie Sanders socialist new age order a mentality, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson slides in there like a little fucking asshole in between there to sell the bigger agenda, which is, he says, oh, for everybody on the planet, and then the guy he fixes what he was saying, yeah, everybody on the planet. So this is an algorithm that they're selling to take the control grid that exists on the United States scale and multiply it by a United Nations scale. And they're going to use they're already using these individuals, these smug assholes, and these people that you believe are for you, that are all like for you, and these, they're not. They don't give a shit about you. Whether they know it or not, they're being utilized to sell an agenda. Most people don't know, because they're just trying to, utilize their little 15 minutes of whatever to, sometimes do a little good. Sometimes the people are definitely understanding what the fuck they're doing. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, there's no way he doesn't know that he hasn't questioned stuff like the flat earth and all this other stuff that exists outside of the hard science community. He's very informed, as the movie that he is one of the main actors within. So that's basically it. I'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me. Till next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.